that is done, once that is done, we will try to bring the two together to determine some dynamics in the relationship. Once that is done, we will try to do the other aspects of elasticity. I'm hoping we should be able to finish that today so that we can go deeper into the advanced section involving a little bit of calculations. Okay. But from last week's session, do you have any question to ask, including those who are online? Let me see. Muda, can I get the yes. Okay, so do you have any question from last week? Any question from last week? Okay, so today we are going to start with Muda, let me see, slide 8. Good. So today we are going to start with supply, and unlike demand, where we said we're looking at the willingness and of the willingness and ability to actually acquire or purchase something. For supply, we're also talking about the willingness and of course the ability to also supply. So and unlike demand, where we said there is inverse relationship or a negative relationship between the demand and the price of the good, for supply, which is from the perspective of the firm, from the perspective of the supplier. Can you hear me, those online? I'm fast. Okay. So last week lecture was demand, and which was basically from the perspective of
online is because all your speakers are
last week lecture was from the perspective of an individual buyer. So which means as a person, before you buy something, you need to assess your willingness. You need to also assess your ability to buy that. And linked to the price of the commodity, that is the amount you will exchange for whatever commodity that you acquire. And we agree that there is an inverse or a negative relationship between the two. Negative relationship between demand and negative relationship between the price. So when there's an increase in price, we expect all things being equal, quantity to reduce. And today we are going to make progress with the other leg, which is from the perspective of the supplier. And from the perspective of the supplier, we're talking about the supply aspect. And with the supply aspect, like I mentioned, for demand, we have someone should be willing and he should also be able to pay, for that particular good. And for supply aspects too, we are also talking about your willingness and ability to also do what? To also supply or to also offer, as a firm, the good that you are producing or the good that you are selling. So unlike demand, where we have an inverse relationship between demand and price, for supply, we expect to have a positive relationship because firms are always excited when there is an increase in price. In a way, it encourages them to do what? To supply more. So which means that for the supply aspect, we are talking about an increase in price accompanied by increase in what? In supply. So which means there is a positive relationship between what? Price of the good and then what? And the supply. And this, if you bring the perspective of the law of demand here, the relationship between price and supply would also be termed the law of what? Supply, where we're basically looking at how supply or quantity supplied and then the price of the goods move in the same direction. So basically, we are talking about the link between price and then supply. So demand with the negative relationship, supply, we're talking about what? The positive relationship, which means that as price increases, we expect our quantity supply should also what? should also increase to reflect the direct relationship between the two. Because the idea is firms naturally will be willing to increase supply when they feel there is going to be an increment in price. Okay, so now let's look at this, transparent this diagrammatically. I know we did man care, so it's just basically the same, intuition, but with an inverse, relationship, because the demand was negative side, and then this one will be the positive side. So which means that if we plot the two curve, yes, thank you, brother. If you plot the two curve with the price axis and then the quantity, instead of demand, we are making it what? Supply. Or I can just write S here to make it quantity supply, which means if we transfer the positive relationship between the demand and between price and supply, we expect to have this particular, relationship. In a way, any increment in what in price is accompanied by increment in what accompanied by increment in supply. It's accompanied by increment in supply, which means that if there is also a decrease in price, suppliers will also decrease quantity, will also decrease its quantity supply. So this particular graphical representation of the relationship between quantity supply and quantity and price is called what? The supply curve. It's called the supply curve. It's called the supply curve. So the graphical relationship between supply and demand and price is called the supply curve. Now let's look at what determines the supply. So let's look at them. I won't talk about them, but I will be very brief on that, so that you can, of course, read on that. A key factor on the influences or the determinants of supply is, of course, this particular one, which is what? The price. Which is the price. Like I mentioned, there will never be any question on like distance determinants and the rest. But in an equation, they will be there so that you will definitely know the relationship. Okay. So price of the good, here we are looking at determinants of supply. So which means that the previous slide, which means that in terms of the relationship, by looking at the law of supply, when price increase, supply will also increase. And when price fall, supply will also fall. Supply will also fall. Which means that there is a positive relationship between price and what? Supply. The second one, you can also talk about firm's cost of production. So as a firm, your cost of production is a key factor influencing the next slide, Mula. No, the next. Okay, so firm's cost of production is also a key factor influencing what? Supply of the goods. Once there is an increase in cost of production, do you expect firms to produce more, or they constrain production? They constrain. So which means that once there is an increase in the cost the cost component of your production, we expect the amount of quantity that you will supply to do what? To go down. So which means that if there is an increase in the cost of production, naturally firms will have to pay more to be able to produce what? The previous level of production. And if they are not willing to pay more costs to produce the previous level of production, then quantity supply must do what? Must fall. There is also once maybe whether the factors are many. So maybe during the rainy season or we expect to see products that are largely prevalent in the dry season. So whether it's also a factor affecting supply. Expectations like we have on demand, where if people are expecting future prices to do what? To fall, then they reduce demand now because they will want to buy it more when the prices fall. The same thing applies to producers. When they expect future prices to increase in future, current supply will do what? It will increase supply. Current supply will fall. Future price, yes. Once firms expect future prices to increase, So if I know tomorrow there's going to be an increase in price, maybe of cement from 100 cedis to 105 cedis, I will lock my shop. I won't supply today. I will wait for tomorrow and supply. So unlike demand where we expect an increase in future prices to increase current demand, for supply an increase in the expectations of future prices will do what? Will decrease current supply and then increase future demand. So which means that if we have this expectation, this is the current one. So if we expect tomorrow's or futures prices to do what? If I expect future prices to increase, which means that current level of what? Quantity supply, even the current level of expectation will do what? Will fall, excellent, will fall. So which means that for this current price that we are looking at, if we expect the current price to increase, then for the quantity supply and the current level of expectation, we expect that to fall. So we should know. The inverse relationship also apply. If we expect future prices to fall, then supply will increase and then yes, because the current price will be higher than the future price. And with the first factor that we are looking at, quantity supply should definitely do what? Will definitely increase. So we have several of those factors that I would encourage you to to look at. Those online, do you have any question? Can you hear me clearly? Those online, can you hear me clearly? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, that's okay. So let's look at the other side of it. So for the other side, I know last week we did issues on change in quantity demanded and changes in the demand. Let's bring the same intuition here to look at the relationship between movements or the relationship between prices and the other factors. So here we are basically going to look at change in quantity supplied versus change in what? In supply versus change in supply. Like we listed the factors affecting supply, where we said price is a key component, where we also mentioned cost of production as also a key component affecting supply, where we also mentioned weather, where we also mentioned expectations, where we also talk about the number of suppliers, because once suppliers are made in the market, we expect quantity to also be high. Now, with all these factors, and of course, there are several other factors that we all know. Once we have all these factors, any change in them will have to affect the supply. Any change in any of these will have to affect our supply. Now, with the changes in quantity supply, if we have here as our supply, here we have here as our demand price. Remember, we mentioned there is what? A positive relationship between supply and price. In this particular case, once there is this particular price, P1, we expect quantity supply to be Q1. Now, let's change this particular price. Maybe say an increase in that price from from P1 to P2. Then quantity supply naturally will have to do what? Will have to increase. So from Q1 to Q2, from Q1 to Q2. So which means that we are leaving a particular point to a different one. In this particular case, there is what? A movement from one point to the other as a result of changes in what? In price. So which means that for changes in quantity supplied, it is triggered by changes in what? In price. It is triggered by changes in price. So which means if there is further increase in price, then we expect quantity supply to also do what? To also increase. So there's going to be another movement from one particular point to the other. When there is a decrease in price from the first law of supply, then we expect price to fall here because there is a decrease, maybe P0, then quantity supply will also move from where we were initially to this particular point. So clearly there is a movement, along the same supply curve. So if there is a movement along the same supply curve, that is what we call what? Change in quantity supply. So for change in quantity supply, it is nothing but just a movement along the same supply curve. So along the same supply curve. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now if we assume that there is a change, if we assume that there is a change in any of the factors apart from the first one, which is the price, we do not expect supply to change, or we do not expect supply to move from one point to the other. We expect the entire supply curve to do what? To shift either to the right or to the left, either to the right or to the left. So which means that if there is a change in cost of production, if there is a change in weather, yes, if there is a change in weather, if there is a change in the expectation or change in any other factor, the number of suppliers or whatever, then we expect our supply curve to shift. We expect our supply curve to shift either to the what? Either to the right or to the what? To the left. So if there is a shift in supply from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, assuming we have this fixed price, because remember I said, for any change that you want to measure, you need to hold the other factors constant. So if we hold the price constant, which means the price will remain the same. At this particular price, this is the what? This is the quantity supply, maybe say Q2. Now, there is a change in the cost of production. So we expect the supply curve to change either to the left or to the right. Because the change in cost of production could be an increase in cost of production or a decrease in cost of production. Now, if there is an increase in cost of production, remember we said an increase in cost of production will cause suppliers to decrease what? To decrease production or to decrease supply. Which means that if there is a fall in cost of production, supply will definitely do what? Increase. If there is a fall in cost of production, supply will definitely supply will definitely increase. So now let's assume there is a fall in cost of production. Then we expect the supply curve to do what? To shift to the right. To the right. So if supply curve shifts from left to right, it means there is an increase in supply because you will no longer be supplying Q2, you will now be supplying what? Q3. So when you look at it, there is an increase in the supply that you are initially, making. I hope we are making some progress. So which means that it shifts to the right, denotes what? An increase in what? In supply. So if there is also an increase in the cost of production, we expect supply curve to do what? Decrease, which means supply should shift to where? To the left. So which means maybe we can have Q3, we can have SQ3. So here you will expect supply to do what? To fall. So which means that if there is a shift in the entire supply curve to the right, it means there is a what? In the next there is going to be a decrease in the supply. I hope we are making some progress. Okay. So now, if there is maybe a disaster, farmers aren't able to produce more, what will happen to the entire supply curve? It will decrease by excellent, by shift. Because if there is disaster and farmers are not able to supply more, maybe quantity of meat or whatever will have to what? Will have to fall. So our entire supply curve will no longer be at where it was, but it will be what? It will be on a different location to the left. Or if there is good, weather, rainfall, bumper harvest, whatever, then we expect supply to and shifting the entire supply curve to the right. Any question? But what happens when supply shifts to the right, like we have here, and then price increases? What will happen? When supply shifts to the right, maybe there is a decrease in cost of production, increasing the supply to the right. And once that is done, there is an increase in price. What will happen? Excellent. There will be a movement along the same supply curve. Now, the first is there is a decrease in cost of production. Cost of production will trigger an increase in supply. So which means you will move from this to the new supply curve. So we are no longer using the old supply curve. The supply curve in the middle. We are no longer using the supply curve in the middle. We are now on the new supply curve, which is the red one. Okay, once that is done and there is an increase in price, what will happen? There will be a movement to a different supply to a different point. So we will no longer be on this particular point. We can be on this particular point. So first, the supply curve will shift and followed by what? A movement on the new supply curve. Are we together? Okay. Now let's look at the next one. Any question? Am I fast? It's fast then. Yes. Put the next slide. Today we are going to so this is today's lecture. So this is now today's lecture. What we did yesterday, I had planned that what we just finished today. I had planned to finish that last week. So we are now doing today's lecture. Okay, so today we are bringing the demand and supply together. So yes, okay. Let me.
Can I shift
So the person asked now can that cause price to fall? And we said yes.
Yes. That's
and then price now production. Now, what is this like? the further increase than the supply. No, further increase, expectation of further increase in price. You can fall by at that moment.
Yes, last attempt, okay, go to another one, huh?
The reason why we are finding it difficult to answer this question. When you were giving the lecture, you told us that in any part, you have to do something. But I think it was not specific on why the quantity or the seat, so that we could know whether you see that everybody is busy.
But the
Answer here. The answer here is no, because price is constant here.
the price is constant, yeah.
The price is constant here. And we are made aware that when there is a shift to the right, then it means that there is something that the suppliers are expecting. That is why they are increasing the price, their supply. And for that matter, the question is that when there is a shift to the right, it means that price will fall. It means that when there's a shift to the right, then we are expecting more. But when in this case, we are expecting that the price is in the sense that this cannot determine the supply. Suppliers to supply more.
I don't know whether those online you are hearing. Buddha, can we have the mic? Or because it's not in yet. It's not in yet. Okay. Yes. He was still making a point. I'll come back. Yes.
Of the curve from left to right or from right to left, unless any other things are being there because so in this case, it will be abnormal to measure it that if the shift the curve shift from left to right, price will also increase. Right, there will be abnormal.
Shift to the right, increase the supply, effect of the price, in a way before, because of competition. So many people have been selling the same products, and then to be able to make more sales, price will be influenced by way of quality.
Okay. Those are good attempts. So we have two answers. The question is, if there is a shift in supply curve to the right, which means there is an increase in supply, will that cause price to increase or will that cause price to fall? Now, if we look at the shifts in the demand or the supply or the change in supply is going to change not because there is a change in price, because there is a change in any of the factors affecting supply, with the exception of price. So which means that before supply should make a move to change, we are already holding your price constant. I hope you are following. Yes, sir. We are already holding your price constant. So in this particular case, that particular shift alone will not cause price to do what? To change. Are we following? Yes. So that is one answer. The other answer is you cannot determine the price alone without bringing on board the demand, because how much people will be willing to pay will also depend on the demand. I get it. So in this particular case, we are looking at changes in what the supply plus the changes in what in the demand. So in the next session, once we bring these two together, we'll be analyzing what will be the effect of price when there is a change in what in supply, given that demand is held constant, or if demand should also change. I get it. So in this particular case, whether price will increase or whether price will fall will depend on whether demand is held what constant or whether demand will also what would also change. I hope we are together. But if we are not bringing the demand component, then price should be held intuitively or automatically. Price is held constant for any shift in what in supply. Okay. So let's go to the
Say,
yes.
can you give a practical example of what you have explained?
We will do that. We will do that. That's why we are combining this one. Okay, thank you. A practical one would be cement prices and cost of housing. So we'll come to that. Okay, so here we are looking at the relationship between demand and relationship between supply. We have done demand separated, we have done supply separated. So now we are going to bring the two together. And by bringing the two together, it will help us to do two things. The first one is it will help us in determining what the prices. It will help us to determine the prices. So we are just heading towards the question. By bringing the demand and supply together, it will help us to determine the prices. It will also help us to determine what the quantity. By bringing the two together, it will help us to determine the prices. It will also help us to determine what the quantity. Here we are looking at the quantity that we will supply and the quantity that will be demanded. That will be demanded. So by bringing the two together, we'll be looking at the prices. And the price, we can say we are looking at what the market price, the prices that are being offered for sale, and the prices that are being what that are being. So for instance, if we look at demand here, if we look at the demand, maybe move the next slide. Okay. So if you look at demand here, what do you expect to see? Price. What do we expect to see here? Quantity. So maybe if I put demand just to differentiate, okay. Here is the demand curve, which slows downwards from left to right. And we are looking at the other aspect, which is what? The supply. And here will give us what? The price. And from the law, we are saying here should have what? An upward, sloping. So which means supply is positively sloped. Supply curve is positively sloped, while demand curve is what? Negatively sloped. So in this particular case, if we bring the two together, which means that we have one demand, one addition place. So we have here as the quantity, we have here as what? The price. So here will be our demand, this one will be our what? Our supply. So we have here as demand, here will be as our supply. So supply curve is upward sloping, while demand curve is negatively sloping. So here, what can you see? There is a unique point where the two meet. Are we together? Yes, there is a unique point where there's this particular two meet. And that unique point is very important. That unique point is called what? Equilibrium. That unique point is called equilibrium. So equilibrium is the point where demand and supply meet. And when demand and supply meet at a particular point, it means that how much is demanded and how much is supplied will be what? Will be the same or will be equal. So which means that quantity demanded and quantity supplied will be the same at equilibrium. So that is why you will see that here I'm not writing quantity demanded and I'm not writing quantity supplied. Because at equilibrium, both the quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal, same, so are equal. So we can just have one what? Quantity. If we are referring to the demand, then here will be our quantity demanded. And if we are referring to the supply, here will be our quantity what? Quantity supplied. So at equilibrium, demand or quantity demanded is equal to what? Quantity supplied. Now we have two things. We have the price axis and we have the quantity axis. When you start at the equilibrium and trace it to the price axis, you will get a particular price where we will call it what? Equilibrium price. And if you trace it to the quantity axis, you will have what is called the equilibrium quantity. So equilibrium price is the price at which demand is equal to what? Supply. And equilibrium quantity is the quantity supplied and quantity demanded are what? Are equal. Are we together? So which means that if you go to the market to buy something, and maybe you want to buy goods, and they say the price of goods is 100 cedis. Maybe the price of goods is 100 cedis. Let's say 100 cedis. And this price of goods is 100 cedis. This is from the perspective of who? The supplier. Because the price is high, the supplier would want to supply what? More. I get it. But you are saying, no, you don't have that particular money. 100 cedis is too much. Maybe you are offering 30 cedis. So maybe 30 cedis will be here. So at that particular 30 cedis, we are looking at from whose perspective? We are looking at the demand. So this we are looking at. So when you look at the two, there is no. Oh. Okay. So when you look at the two, there is no, consensus. One is up there, the other one is also down there. Now, the supplier is willing to decrease it small, just to encourage you, so that you will also say, okay, fine, I don't have, I will no longer offer 30, I can offer 40. Then what is happening? You are increasing the price, whilst the supplier is also trying to do what? To decrease the price. So you will reach at a particular point where both of you will be happy with whatever is offered. So that particular price that you are happy with will be the price that the supplier is also happy with. And that particular price is called the equilibrium what? It's called the equilibrium price. Now, when price was higher, lower than the equilibrium price, what is happening here? There is increase in price. There is increase in price. And when price is lower than the equilibrium price, there is what? And when price is higher than the equilibrium price, there is what? There is decrease in price. So which means that if there is prices, if there is a price above the equilibrium what price, we say market forces. Market forces will propel the price to do what? To fall. Are you getting it? To the equilibrium price. And when there is what? A price or prices lower than the equilibrium price, what will happen? Market forces will also compel the prices to do what? To increase. Please note this. Now, when there is a price below the equilibrium price, market forces will force the price to do what? To increase. And then market forces will also force the price to decrease if it is below, if it is above the equilibrium price, at a point where the two prices will be what? Will be the same. So if the prices are the same, that is going to be the what is called the market clearing price. Market clearing price. Market clearing price. So market clearing price is the same thing as what? The equilibrium price. Market clearing price will be the same thing as the equilibrium price. Later, we will know why we are calling it market clearing price. Okay, so if we pick this particular, diagram that we just plotted, point C will be our what? Our equilibrium price, our equilibrium. And when you trace it to the left, it will give us the equilibrium what? Price. And when you trace it to the bottom, it will give us the equilibrium what? Quantity. And once we have established an equilibrium, which means that suppliers or supplier or the firm is happy with whatever the buyer is offering. And when you go down to look at the equilibrium quantity, which means that at that particular quantity, the supplier is willing to give out. And then the buyer is also willing to what? To pay or to take for this, to take this particular quantity. Now, let's look at this. In a situation where you have a mismatch, in a situation where you have a mismatch, those online, I'm still looking at the current curve, that's the current slide. So we have price, we have what? Quantity. Now, if we have this as the demand curve, and we have this as what? As the supply curve. We have this as the supply curve. Here is called the equilibrium price, which is point C. Point C is called the equilibrium price. So if point C is called, let me see whether the point that I'm building, there is a slide for that, but there is a slide for that. Okay. So Muda, you can go to the next two slides. You can go to the next two slides. Again. Okay, no, that's good. You can leave it there. Now, when you look at the current slide that you are looking at, we are still referring to the same demand and supply curve put together. At this particular point C, we are looking at the equilibrium price. Equilibrium price, you can choose to write it this way, or you can choose to write it with the asterisk, depending on how you want to write it. Or you can combine the two. And here will be our what? Our equilibrium quantity, which means at that point C, when you trace it downwards, the quantity that you will hit will be the equilibrium what? Will be the equilibrium quantity, which means at this particular point, suppliers are happy to receive this particular price, which is the equilibrium price. And then buyers or demanders are also happy to do what? To offer that particular price. Now, here we have, let's make two assumptions. Let me start with this one. Let's say there is a price above the equilibrium price. Let's say P2. Let's say P2. Now, this particular price is high. Remember what we are looking at here as the equilibrium price. Quantity demanded is equal to quantity what? Supplied. Now, at a higher price, because P2 is now above the equivalent price, which means price 200 is now above the equivalent price. I don't know whether it's 140 or 130. It's not up to 150. Okay, let's just assume it's 150. Okay, let's just assume it's 150. So the equivalent price is 150, and then 200 or P2 is above the equivalent price. What do you think suppliers will do? They will be happy because at higher price, they will supply more. So they will, the point will now be on this particular one. So the new quantity supplied will be maybe say Q2. So there is an increase in supply. There is an increase in the quantity supply. But at that particular higher price, what do you think demand will do? Demand will fall because at higher prices, less will be demanded. So demand will fall. So this is the price. So this will be our new quantity, demanded. So here will be our quantity what? Demand, and here will be our quantity supply. So we are no more at equilibrium. We are no more at equilibrium, which means at the moment there is what is called disequilibrium. There is disequilibrium if the quantity supplied and quantity demanded are not what? Equal, are not the same. So here, clearly, our quantity supplied is greater than our quantity demanded. So if how much is being supplied in the market is more than how much is being demanded, which means there is excess what? Supply, which means suppliers have supplied more as a result of the increases in the price. So here, because supply is more than the demand, there is what? Excess, excess supply. There is excess supply. There is excess supply of that particular good, which means that wherever that you go within that particular market, you will be finding that particular, product all littered around. So we have excess supply. We have excess supply. Now, let's also here. So in this particular case, how much is being oversupplied? We will look at how much is being supplied here, which means that we have our quantity what supplied. Could I go and I'll see whether they have done okay. Go. So how much is being supplied minus how much is being what? Demanded. How much is being supplied minus how much is being demanded. So this particular quantity, which is Q2, minus this particular quantity, which is Q3, will be our excess what? Supply. So the excess supply is excess supply, which means that if there is any factor that will make supply to increase, okay, beyond the equivalent price, there is going to be excess what? Supply. And once there is excess supply, we also say there is what? Surplus. There is surplus. So excess supply or surplus. And how much is the value of the surplus, or how much is the value of the excess supply? Would be how much is being what? Supplied minus how much is being what? Demanded. So this will be the value of the excess supply. This will be the value of the excess supply. And if there is excess supply or if there is excess, it means the market is not stable. It means the market is not stable. And if the market is not stable, it means the market is not cleared yet. It means the market is not cleared yet. For the market to clear, this particular price should be should do what? Excellent. This particular price should fall back to P what? To PE, to the equivalent price of 150, which means at that particular price, how much will be quantity supplied? QE, are you getting it? And how much will be quantity demanded? The same QE, which means that the excess supply will be how much is quantity supplied minus how much is quantity what? Demanded. So this minus this will be what? Will be zero. And if it is zero, it means the market is now what? It's now cleared. It means the market is now cleared. It means the market is now cleared. At which particular price is the market clearing? At the equivalent price. So that is why the equivalent price is also called the market what? Clearing price. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 But how much you can bargain with the supplier will determine the equivalent. But you are also going to pay for a price that the supplier is willing to take. And that particular price is the equivalent price. Okay. So this is the market clearing price, also called the equivalent price. So we know there is going to be excess supply if there's going to be excess supply if price, okay, is what? If price is what? Greater than the equivalent price. There's going to be excess supply, or there's going to be surplus if price is what? Is greater than the equivalent price. Please note this. It won't come as simple as this, okay? But please note that there is going to be excess supply, or there's going to be surplus if price is what? Here I'm putting price underscore I to represent any price. So all prices here is here. So if any price above the equivalent price, it will cause excess what? Supply or surplus. For that particular surplus to clear, naturally, what should happen? Good. Excellent. Price should move towards the equivalent. And by moving towards the equivalent, it means that price should what? Should fall up to equivalent. But unfortunately, there is a fall in price even well below the equivalent price. So in as much as we are expecting price to fall, it should be regulated to the equivalent price so that the market clearing identity will hold. But in the event the price should fall up to maybe say P1, what is happening there? It means that the quantity, it means the supply, it means the price is now below the equivalent price. The price is now below the equivalent price. And because supply price is now lower, what should happen to demand? Demand will increase. Where is the desktop? Demand will increase. Then maybe if you can move to so here, what will happen to demand? Demand will increase. So we are here, maybe say Q, let me represent it by Q4. Q4, because price is now lower, people are happy, so they want to buy more. But at that lower price, suppliers are not happy. So they will do what? They will decrease or constrain supply to say maybe say Q1. So which means at this particular point, you will realize that our quantity demanded, which is Q4, is what? Is greater than quantity what? Supplied. So quantity demanded, we represented by what? Q4 is greater than our quantity supply, which we represented by what? By Q1. So at that particular price of what? P1, which is lower than the equivalent price, more people are looking for the good and suppliers are supplying what? Less. So there's going to be what? There's going to be deficit or there's going to be what? Shortage. Which means any price below the equivalent price, there's going to be what? Shortage. There's going to be shortage. Or there's going to be excess what? Excess demand because people are demanding more. So any price below the equivalent price, there's going to be an excess demand or there's going to be a shortage in the system because people are looking forward to buying that particular good at a lower price. And suppliers are not supplying, they are restricting supply at that particular lower price. In this particular case, similar to the excess supply, there is going to be excess what? Demand or shortage. And the value of that excess demand or the value of that particular shortage will be what? The Q4 that we are looking at minus Q1. So for those online, the excess, they can now see excess good. So for those online, the value of that excess demand or the value of that particular shortage will be what? The quantity demanded minus the quantity supplied. Please note that quantity can never be negative. Quantity can never be negative. So if you are calculating the value of the shortage and you still maintain quantity supplied, remember quantity supplied is here. Are you getting it? Minus quantity what? Quantity demanded. Because this one is less than this one, the result that you are going to get will be what? Will be negative. Are you getting it? Because assuming here is 7 and here is 2, and you are saying 2 minus what? 7. You are going to get minus 5 as the excess demand. You get 0. It's not that. Okay. It's going to be what? It's 5 because the quantity demanded, which is 7, minus quantity supplied. So it's positive what? Quantity cannot be negative. Please note it. So here, there is this equilibrium in the market, and the market is unstable. So for the market to be stable, prices should increase to the equilibrium price. Prices should increase to the equivalent price for the market to do what? To clear. For the market to clear. So here, if prices are below the equivalent price, market forces will force prices to what? To increase. And if they are above it, it will force it to do what? To fall back to this particular equilibrium. So at this particular point, E, we don't expect to have what? Surplus, shortage, and we don't also expect to have what? Excess. So the market is cleared only if equilibrium price is the same only if quantity supplied and quantity demanded are the same. So which means that, please note the rule, at equilibrium, quantity supplied or quantity demand is equal to what? Quantity supplied. Quantity supply is equal to quantity demanded, or demand is equal to what? Supply, to be short. Because you will be using this one going forward. Okay. Any question before we proceed? Now, let's do a practical case here. Let's do a practical case here where we have unstable markets. Maybe there is this equilibrium. There is this equilibrium. There is this equilibrium in the system. There is this equilibrium in the system. Maybe let's say goose market. Let's look at goose market. Let's look at the goose market. There is this equilibrium. So let's look at here. This is price. We are looking at quantity. We have here. This is supply. This is demand. So here will be what? Equilibrium price. Here will be equilibrium quantity. Good. So this is the market clearing price. At this particular price, suppliers are happy. Buyers are also what? Buyers are also happy to take this particular quantity. But in the goods market, maybe let's say in the agri market or agricultural products, government is saying that no, this particular price we are offering for farmers, maybe let's say plantain. Let's say plantain market. This particular price that we are offering is low to the farmers. So to motivate them, government is saying that yes, even though this is the equivalent price, the price at which suppliers are or who are farmers, they are happy to take, and buyers are also happy to pay. Government feels there is an extortion. We are ripping off the farmers, and for that matter, government is placing an increase in price just to protect or to increase the livelihood of farmers. So government is saying, going forward, we no longer expect you to pay for cassava or banana or for this agricultural product at this particular price. Going forward, it should be what? P2. So which means there is an increase in the price. As farmers or suppliers, they would be happy. So what will they do? They will increase the supply. They will increase the supply to say Q4. Farmers will increase the supply to Q4 at this particular price. Now, it is illegal to do what? It is illegal to sell at this particular price because this is now the legally fixed price. But at that particular price, demanders or people are not willing to do what? To pay for that particular price. So what will happen? Instead of taking this particular quantity, they will now do what? Reduce the quantity because there is an increase in price. What is happening here? There is excess supply or what? Or surplus. There is excess supply or surplus of this particular value. So which means that there is excess supply. If I write it this way, I hope it's clear. There is excess supply because there is excess supply because quantity supply is what is greater than quantity demanded, and the value of that excess supply will be what? Q4 minus Q1. Let's say Q4 is 1,000 quantities. So let's say Q4 is 1,000 quantities minus Q1. Q1 is what? Maybe 200 quantities. So the excess supply will be what? Will be 800. So this is the excess supply in the market. Farmers are now left with much to deal with because people are not what? Buying. Who caused it? The government fixing that particular price above the equivalent price. So for the market to clear, two things. The first, like I mentioned, for the market to clear, what should happen? would have to decrease to the equivalent price for demand to be equal to supply, for the excess supply to clear. But at this particular price, it is now what? Illegal. So which means that we cannot decrease prices. But the market is still unstable. The market is unclear. And the market must be what? Must be cleared. So for the markets to clear, then the government will have to come in to do what? To buy the excess supply. So at this particular case, the government must buy the excess supply. So the government will have to take the excess supply from the farmers. I'm sure that was why the Agric Minister did the farmers market or whatever. So the government must do what? Buy the excess. Whatever the government is going to do with the excess, we don't know. Whether for planting, for food and jobs, the free senior to feed the free senior high students or buffer stock. Yes, but the government must step in to do what? Sorry. Yes, it is also a possibility. Yes, so government can pay for the extra one, or the government can do what? To pay to buy for the, the excess. But the bottom line is prices will not come down because it is now a fixed particular price. Are we together? Are we together? Which means that government is saying that don't ever buy or pay for this. This should be the minimum amount that you must pay for this particular item. So what we are seeing here is the what? Is the minimum amount that you must pay for this particular one. Above P2 is hooray for the farmers, and government will also be happy. So any price set above the what? The equivalent price is what? Is the minimum price. Is the minimum price. So here we are heading towards something. Is the minimum. So at this particular minimum price, we're talking about the existence of what? An excess supply or a surplus, which must be cleared by the government. I get it, which must be cleared by the government. Now, this particular minimum price is also called price what? Price ceiling or price floor? Price ceiling or price floor? Price ceiling. So in the existence of this, we expect surplus to happen, and this surplus must be cleared. Now let's look at the labor market. Let's look at the labor market. Now let's look at the labor market. Remember, this is the goods market in the labor market. So in the labor market, we are talking about what? Should I say the quantity of labor supplied or the amount of labor or number of workers? So we are looking at workers. Yes, number of workers. So in the labor market, we are looking at the number of workers. And here will be the what? Excellent, will be the wages or will be the wage rate. So here, remember for all prices, we have either the unit, cedis, dollars, or whatever. Here we also have cedis, dollars, or whatever. So this is the labor market that we are looking at. And this is the demand for what? For labor. And yes. That's where we are coming to. It's just the wage. It's just the wage. So here will be the what? The supply of what? Labor. So this is the supply of labor, and this is the demand. So here, the demand for labor is employers, because employers will what? They demand the labor that we are all supplying. So this one's the supply. We are looking at what? The job what? The job seekers in the job market. We are looking at the job seekers in the job market. So this is the demand of labor, and this is the supply of labor. At this particular point, which is the equilibrium, job seekers and employers are equal. They are happy with whatever is being supplied and whatever is being demanded. When you trace it to hit the wages axis, this is the equilibrium one, wage. And when you trace it to hit the quantity axis, this will be the equilibrium what? The equilibrium labor or the workforce. How many people are being employed at the moment? And how much is being paid to them? So here, employers are happy, job seekers are also happy to take this particular amount that is being paid to them. And they are willing to supply, this particular quantity or this particular number of labor. Maybe in the event of government intervention, saying no, how much these people, the employers are paying for the labor, which is WE, which is the equilibrium, it's not what? It's not encouraging. And for that matter, no employer should pay any worker at this particular and below. Are you getting it? At this particular price or at this particular wage rate and below. So to improve the livelihoods of workers, government is setting a wage above what is being offered in the market. So government is increasing the wage rate to maybe say W2. So at that particular WT, it's going to be a cost to which people, the employers, because if you look at it from a perspective of price dynamics, it is the price of the labor. So at a higher price, what do you expect the employers will do? They will decrease. Yes, so they will decrease. Where is it? We are talking about employers. So at that particular higher wage, what will happen to labor? Labor will fall, which means they are going to do what? They are going to employ less, or they are going to sack people. Are we together? Yes, they are going to employ less, or they are going to sack people. And at that particular wage rate, my guy who also finished by saying he will not work for this will now find himself in the market because there is an increment in what? In the wage rate. So all those people who weren't willing to offer their wage at this low wage rate will now go into the job market to also look for what? The job. So they will be supplying more. They will be supplying more. So people and the supply of this labor will also include those who are already in the job market looking for job, plus new entrants, propelled by the increase in the wage rates. So clearly at this particular wage rate, we have demand here, which is Q1. We have supply here, which is Q2, being disproportionate. In other words, our quantity or the amount of labor supplied, which is Q2, is more than the amount of labor required now by employers at this particular new wage rates, which means that people are now supplying more than needed. So there is what is called what? Excess supply of what? Of labor. There is excess supply of labor. So here, there is excess supply of labor, and that excess supply of labor will be the Q2, which is the new quantity supplied, okay, minus what? Q1, which is the new quantity demanded. So those that you are looking at here, the difference, assuming quantity supplied, that's the new supply because of the increments in wages, is now 500,000 minus quantity demanded. Remember, quantity demanded has fallen. So maybe it has fallen to 100,000. So the difference will be what? 400,000. So this 400,000 represent the excess supply, and this 400,000 represents unemployment. Are you getting it? This 400,000 represents unemployment. This 400,000 represents unemployment, which means that there is now more job seekers in the market at the new wage rate. There is now more job seekers because the quantity supplied is exceeding quantity demanded given the new wage rates, given the new wage rates. So here, just to re-illustrate, the unemployment will now be the 500K minus 100K, which is the 400K. So this 400K represents the new, the unemployed job or the job seekers. So this is the level of unemployment. Now, what do we have here? The unemployment is caused as a result of what? Increases in the wage rate. And that new wage rate is government imposing on employers to represent the prices they will pay to job seekers. And to improve their wage conditions, government is saying that don't pay them, henceforth don't pay for this one. The minimum amount you should pay to each worker should be what? Should be B2. So this B2 that we are looking at is called the minimum what? It's called the minimum wage. Called the minimum wage. So minimum wage, a quick consequence of minimum wage is what? It's unemployment. So as government is increasing wage rates more by one city, 2 cities, unemployment will continue to increase. So anytime government is not increasing wage rate by a significant amount, government is also conscious of not only the wage bill, but also the unemployment, because it's now illegal for any person to pay below this one, even though it is not the market clearing wage rate, but it is illegal. So with this unemployed youth, what do you think the government should do? So the new teaming youth looking for job, what do you think government should do? NAPCO. Any question? Those online. No question. Okay. So this will represent unemployed youth. So government should have to deal with this level of what? Unemployment. Whether NAPCO or any initiative that will call forestry, that will clear the market. Okay. Any question? So if anyone is offering to pay, maybe say W1, it is illegal. But at that particular W1, what is happening? What is going to be the dynamic? Quantity, supply will what? Will increase because we are no more here. The quantity supply will increase. And what will happen to demand? Demand will what? Demand will decrease because it's fallen. I get it. So demand will decrease. Demand will decrease. Because remember I said it's the price. And there's an inverse relationship between the price and the demand, yes, and demand. So that even though it is illegal, but in this particular event, let's just illustrate it. We have here as the equilibrium, here as the minimum wage. We have here as the illegal wage. We have here as the illegal wage. This is Q1, this is Q2. So here, demand is more than supply. Because wage is now low, suppliers are looking for more people to do, employers are looking for more people to employ. I get it. They are willing to employ 600,000 people. But because the wage rate is too small, only 50,000 people are willing to offer their services. So which means there is excess, there is excess demand or shortage of what? Of workers. There is excess demand or shortage of workers. And that shortage of workers, their value will represent what? 500 and what? 50. Because I said at this low wage rate, only 50,000 are being what? Supplied. And employers are looking for 600,000. So which means that the difference between the quantity supplied, which is this one, minus the quantity demanded, will be the excess what supply or will be the amount of people who are there will be the amount of people suppliers or employers are looking to employ. So here we said this one is 600,000 minus 550,000. So the difference will be what? 550,000. So 550,000. So this 550,000 represents what? Should we say vacant positions? Okay, because they are looking forward to employing this particular number of people, but they are not there. Because wage rate is lower, they are looking to employ more, but people are not willing to offer their services. Any question? Okay, now let's look at the rent market. Let's look at the rent market. So let's look at the rent market. So in the rent market, we also looking at this one. This maybe say housing units. Let's say housing units. Housing units. So here, let's say rent, it may be in cedis or in dollars. So this is the amount of rent or the housing prices. And this will be the housing units. The same thing will come to play. There's an inverse relationship between the number of housing people are willing to buy and the price. And real estate developers or agents are also willing to supply more when there is what? An increase in what? In rent or housing prices. At this particular equilibrium, we say the quantity of housing supplied and the quantity of housing demanded are what? Are equal. At this particular point, we say the rent is the equilibrium rent. Remember, here is rent. So it's the equilibrium rent. If I put housing price, it will be the equilibrium housing what? Price. Here will be the equivalent housing units. So maybe let's say here, the equivalent housing units. So at this particular point, landlords are happy to receive this amount by offering this quantity, and then tenants are also willing to do what? To pay for this particular amount at this particular quantity. Because there is that willingness between the two parties, tenants and then landlords, there is what is called market clearance, because landlords are happy, tenants are also happy, or housing sellers are happy, the estate developers are happy, buyers are also happy. Now, but government is saying through the rental control that how much is being paid for rent, maybe chamber and hall, or how much is being paid for two-bedroom apartments or whatever, is too much. Landlords are ripping off tenants, or real estate estate developers are also ripping off home buyers. And for that matter, government is saying at that particular higher price, people are being taken advantage of. So no person should do what? Should charge this particular equivalent rent, but it should decrease it by virtue of what? State power, reducing the rent to say R1. So it is not illegal for any housing unit owner to sell at this particular rate. And it's also now illegal for any landlord to charge rent at this particular rate. Now, what is happening? Price is low. So at that low price, what should happen? Remember, this is supply, this is demand. So at this particular low rate, people will now be looking forward to rent or to demand more, let's say Q4. And because the rents or the price is now lower, supply will also what? Supply less. So supply will fall. Let's say Q2. Are we together? Remember, this one is quantity or demand. This is demand, and this one is quantity. No, this one is supply, and this one is what? This one is demand. Are we together? Because government through rent control is imposing this decrease in rent, we now have more people looking forward to owning homes, or more people looking forward to renting, as against less housing units being offered in the market for sale, or as compared to less housing unit or homes being offered for rent. At this particular new, rent, we now have quantity demand. Are we getting it? Being more than quantity supply. So here there is what is called the excess what? Excess demand. And that excess demand is also called is it surplus or shortage? Yes, shortage. Sorry, shortage. So what will be the value of the extra, rents, apartments that are not occupied? Will be what? Will be Q4 minus what? Q1, Q2 will be Q4 minus what? Q2. So this will be the value of housing units that are idle, that are not being bought. So you can drive along Oyerefa Road, you can drive along Achimota, you see empty homes. People are not buying because government is saying no longer sell above this particular, rate. So what you are seeing here is the maximum amount. Is the maximum amount that you should do what? You should offer either your housing unit or your room for rent. So what you are seeing here is government fixing what is called the maximum amount, or price what? Price floor. This is the maximum price government is setting, or there is what's called the price what? Floor. When rent control is stepping in to do what? To control the rent by decreasing the equilibrium rent, we expect what to happen. Suppliers will fall and demand will also what? Will increase. So there will be what? People will be looking forward to owning homes and they can't find it. Maybe your landlord will come one day and tell you the cousin is coming back from London, so he needs the room. He's sacking you like that. So because how much you are paying is low, so there will be empty rooms. People will be willing to leave their rooms empty than offering it out for rent at this lower. I know Ethiopians do that a lot. They may have apartments empty because they don't want to reduce even $1. That you can go somewhere. I know landlords are here. Some people are also like that. They would prefer to lock it. Say it doesn't eat, it doesn't drink. So they will lock it and change padlock and stuff. So you will go somewhere to be looking for room. So this is the case of, and remember last week or so, rent control department came and said it is illegal for landlords to increase rent without informing them. I don't know. Anyway, this is a different matter. But it's illegal to set rent prices without the intervention or without the involvement of we people. Is it time? Okay. So without the involvement of the rent control, they need to know how much is being offered, and they also need to assess, the housing unit that you are being offered. Anything aside that is an illegality. So if you own homes, you want to increase or you want to set your rent price, go to rent control. Okay. Any question before we move to the next session? So your question may be in the labor market, the goods market, or in the housing market. Okay. Okay, no problem. So if there is an increase in rent price, the market will be in disequilibrium. Is that not it? The market will be in disequilibrium. So let's say R2. The market will be in disequilibrium. The market will be in this equilibrium. At that particular R2, is it a higher or lower? It's higher. So we people will be happy. The landlords, good. So or suppliers. So they will supply more. They will supply more. Let's say Q5. Let's differentiate it from the other one. And because price is now lower, I'll be looking forward to my farmer house. I won't rent again. So I'll decrease housing units. So we'll all go and look for our farmer houses to pitch, or we'll look for our friends to pitch. So at that higher rate, demand will fall, supply will what? So there's going to be excess supply or surplus. There's going to be excess supply or surplus. In that particular case, what will happen? Supply is what? Greater than demand. Supply is greater than demand. In any case, there will be what there? Will we have empty homes, or will we have we'll have empty apartments? So in this particular case, is the housing units who are now willingly supplying because there is what? A higher price or higher rents, but demanders or home seekers are also reducing, the demand. So in this particular case, there will be surplus of how much? Q5 minus Q1. Q5 minus Q1. Any question? Yes. Yes. No, here, for instance, here, this is lower. Is that not it? And here, what is happening here? Excess demand. I get it, shortage. And here is what? Excess supply is what? Okay, let me cancel this and illustrate it. Okay. So we are looking at housing markets. Okay. So we have this one and we have this one. So this is the equilibrium. So let's say QE. This is the lower rate, and which we will call it the maximum. Okay, the maximum price. So at that particular maximum price, what is happening? Decrease in supply. You can see this is the supply curve. So decrease in supply. So supply is low. At that lower price, what is happening to demand? There will be increase. Let's say Q5. So here there is excess demand. And if there is excess demand, it's the same thing as what? It's the same thing as should be. In this case, people are looking forward to doing what? To rent. People are looking forward to rent, but there is what? Shortage. People are not renting. Are we together? People are not renting. So here, people are not renting. And they are not renting not because of anything, but because this price here, landlords are not offering the rent at this lower price. Okay. Now let's look at the other one. Let's say R3. R3. Now, what is happening here? An increase in the rent. So because there is an increase in the rent, demand will what? Demand will fall. Let's say Q0. Let's say Q0. And what will happen to supply? Supply will increase. Let's say Q6. Here, our supply is what? It's more, is that not it? Than our demand. So there is excess supply. There is excess supply. And if there is excess supply, it means there is what? Surplus. You have empty rooms. No one is there.
I think in that case,
From which perspective you are looking at? Whether from a perspective of a job, a tenant. Uh-huh.
The landlord and the tenant.
Uh-huh.
But what is the
Remember, for shortage, you are looking. You are looking.
so the landlords are not
And remember, I mentioned earlier, whether demand or supply, there should be that willingness. So in this particular case, there is shortage not because you are not willing, you are willing to rent at this particular low rate, but you can't find. I get it. You can't find. In this particular case, there is what? Surplus. Suppliers are willing to supply, but you demand that you are not willing. You won't pay 200 stays for chamber and hall without not being self-contained. Yes. If you bring Abraham Maslow, is in ST. But when you go to Accra Circle, people are even New York, Harlem, people sleep. We have homeless people. Yeah, social studies class, yes, but here no. Okay. Any question or should proceed? Okay. So now let's use the remaining. Any question? Okay. Now let's make progress. Let's bring mass here small. So if we have I hope those online can see. If I have this one as demand, here I want to use only single goods, which means just one product, okay? And remember, we mentioned that demand is a function of what and what? Price of the good, income, price of related goods, maybe A, B, expectations, and the rest, okay? And we also have supply. And we mentioned supply is also a function of excellent price, cost of production, weather, expectation, technology, and others. Okay. Now I want us to use a simple equation and just using one good scenario, just one good. Remember, I said this is written in compact form. Okay. If we want to write it in an explicit form, we know the equation. Here, just to look at a simple equation, if we have this, remember we mentioned this is the autonomous quantity, which is the, when you hold prices constant, income constant, all other things constant, there will be some amount that people will be willing to take. Okay. Now, plus this one being the what? The price. So I'm using only the price. So at this particular point, I'm not looking at this. I'm not looking at this. Are we together? What do we expect this particular sign to be? Is this correct? It should be negative. Are you getting it? Because there is an inverse relationship between quantity demanded and what? And price. Between quantity demanded and price. If I also have something like this, remember this is supply. What do you expect this to happen? To be positive. Are you getting it? Okay. Okay, good. Now, when you look at the law of demand, we said law of demand states that when price should increase, what should happen to demand? Demand should fall. Because there is a negative relationship between demand and then what? And price. Are we together? So if this one is going up, the higher the price, the less the demand. Is that not it? And then the lower the price, the higher the demand. So which means in either way, there is an inverse relationship between the two. And that inverse relationship is what? Negative. If price is increasing, quantity demanded will be falling. So the relationship between price and demand is what? Is negative. And that is here. Because this is demand and this is price. And this is the relationship. Are we together? When you look at the, yes? Question? Okay. When you look at the supply aspect, we said there is a positive relationship. Once prices are increasing, suppliers are willing to supply what? More. And when prices are falling, suppliers are supplying less. So in any way, in either way, there is what? A direct or positive relationship between the two. So that is why we have this one as positive. For here is supply, here is what? Here is price. Are we together? Okay. So if we have something like this, it is critical that we specify that which one is the demand and which one is the supply function. So the two are different. This, please note, this is the demand function. I will always, or it will always be denoted with this one. Are we together? And this one will be our what? Our supply function. And this one will be our supply function. Okay. Now, remember we said that at equilibrium, our quantity demand equal to quantity supplied. So here, we will have our demand here being equal to what? Our supply, which means if we have demand being this one, is that not it? This is the demand equation. Should be equal to the supply. And supply is given as what? Alpha 0 plus alpha 0 plus alpha 1 price. So here, what are the unknowns? We have this one as price. We have this one as price. This side is the supply. Is that not it? Firm supply, and this is our individual demand. Are we together? So which means that the price that we will find here will represent what is called the what? The equilibrium price. So here we can do what? Make the price the subject. Okay. So let's just still maintain this one, which is this one. Which one do we move? We can move this one here. Is that not it? This one, what can we do? We can move it here, but we have this one. When we move this one, it will be what? It will be positive. It will be positive. That's good. So here, clearly, we will have this one. Here, what do we factorize? So let's factor P out. So we will have, you can just have it this way. This one. So what do? You can divide this one by this one. You can divide this one by this one. So this. So which means that our equilibrium price will be what? Beta 0 minus alpha 0 all over alpha 1 plus beta 1. So this is our equilibrium price. This will be our equilibrium price. Are we together? Oh, then we are in trouble. Yes. Yes, Ajam. This is even this is even the exams. Are we together? Okay. This is even the exams. Okay. So those online, I hope we are following. Are they following? Okay. Okay. So we are saying that assuming this is the demand function, and this is the supply function. Remember, this one is simple equation where we are saying our supply is only a function of what? Price. Is that not it? And our demand is also a function of only price. And we made our assertion that at equilibrium, whatever is being demanded should be equal to whatever is being what? Supplied. So if this represents our demand and this represents our what? Our supply, then at equilibrium, these two equations or functions must be what? Must be the same. So that's why we have this identity here. Must be the same. Must be the same. So if we establish that this demand and then the first supply here are the same, which means that whatever that we have here as the demand should be equal to whatever that we have here as the supply. So from here, what do? We make price the what? The subject. So when we make price the subject, this is what we have. Should I still continue or okay? Sorry? Okay, so we have it here. Okay. Now, remember we mentioned that at equilibrium, can I cancel this one? So we have this quantity, we have this price. This demand that we are looking at is the same thing as this one, what you are seeing here. And the supply that we are looking at here is the same thing as alpha 0 plus this one. Are we together? And this identity that we are saying is this particular one. What we have just found as this one, where is it? Beta 0 minus alpha 0 all over alpha 1 plus beta 1 is this one. So this price is here. And remember we said that at equilibrium, our quantity demanded, okay, is equal to our quantity supplied. And the 2 is equal to what? Just one quantity. Because if suppliers are happy to supply and demanders are happy to also take, they supply the same quantity and they also demand the same quantity, which means that at equilibrium, the quantity that you will find using the demand function will be the same quantity that you should find using the what? Supply function, which means that if you are to estimate the equilibrium what? Quantity here, we have to put this price function into either the supply function or the demand function, and then do what? Work out the Q. And by working out the Q means working out the what? The quantity. Okay, so let's look at this. So if we have the equilibrium price, so you will choose whether you want to use the demand or you want to use what? The supply function. Because we are saying that at equilibrium, this, they are all what? The same. So maybe let's put our equilibrium price into the demand function. And we have here as a demand function. So which means that our quantity, okay, is going to be, remember this is the demand, okay, minus beta 1 price. This is the demand. So here, instead of writing quantity demanded, you can just put what? Quantity, Q, because it's the same. So we will have it this way. So in this instance, we will have this one. Where is P? P is here. Is that not it? That's P. So we have this one, because at that equilibrium, price will also be the same. Is that not it? For both demand side and the supply side. So we have this one, all over this one plus this one. So you can work it out. So wherever that you will find will be the quantity what? supplied will be the quantity supplied. So in this case, this will be multiplied to all. So in an exam, what we'll do is we can use figures to represent it. So it wouldn't be something like this, but this is the representation. Now let's do a simple, we have 4 minutes. Yes, so this 4 minutes is enough for us to do this. So let's use simple representation. Let's say our quantity demanded, okay, function is maybe 50 minus 0. Okay, maybe 50 minus 2p. And our quantity supplied is maybe say, maybe 75 plus 3p. Is that not it? So this is simple. With this particular one, equilibrium says the two should be the same. Is that not it? So which means that at equilibrium, our quantity demanded should be equal to quantity what? Supplied. So we will have 50 minus 2p. Is that not it? It's equal to minus 75 plus. And we know why this is plus. Okay, good. So let's work it out. So we can have 50 plus 75 is equal to 3p plus what? 3p here plus 2p. So this one will cross. So this plus this will be what? 1, 2, 5. Here will be what? 5p. So if you divide here by 5, divide here by 5, what will you get? 125 divided by 5. 25. Good. So what you have here is 25. So maybe say, let's say 25 cedis. So this will be the equivalent price. So whatever that we have done here and the rest is 25. Are we together? Okay, good. So now let's look at the equilibrium quantity. So we have found equilibrium price. Equilibrium quantity, we said quantity demanded, quantity supplied is equal to what? Quantity at equilibrium. So which means that we can put our newly found equilibrium price of 25 into the, where is it? Into either the demand function or the supply function. Okay. Now let's put it in the demand function first and see. So here, final Q, we will have 50 minus 25. So here will be what? 50 minus here is what? So we will have what? 0. Good. So quantity demand is 0. Now let's do proof. Let's prove whether it will be 0 here, because we are saying this should be equal to what? This at equilibrium. So quantity supplied is what? Minus 75 plus 3p. Is that not it? And p is what? 25. So this one 25. So what will we get? This. So we are getting here to what? 0. So you can see. So which means when you plot it, when you plot this one, at which point should, let me plot it first. When you plot this one, quantity price. So at what point will the demand curve start? Okay, it will start from 0, no problem. So the demand curve will say it will start from 0. It is already 0 here, good. And at the price, where will it start? Remember here, price that we found, 25, is that not it? And then quantity is 0. Quantity is 0. So at this particular point, we are looking at price being what? 25, is that not it? And quantity being what? Being 0. So the demand, this one will start from somewhere. Remember, demand is already downward or sloping. When you continue plotting, it will still be falling downward from left to right. So something like this. Now, because over here prices were 25, and at that particular price, both suppliers and demanders are happy. So this that we are looking at will be quantity demanded. What about quantity supplied? Is also what? 0. It will also start from here. And then price will be what? 25. So it will also start. And where will supply curve go? It will go up. It will go up. So it will be something like this. But under normal circumstance, we will have it like this. Are we together? So if we are plotting under normal circumstance, we should have something like this. Here will be what? 25. Here will be the what? So maybe here will be 0. Something like that. Are we together? Okay. So this is just to illustrate the equilibrium relationship and its determination. So at equilibrium, price is equal to quantity supplied is equal to quantity demand, which is equal to a unique price. Okay. So maybe next week we will add more factors and also look at a situation where we have 2 commodities. So in that case, we'll be looking at substitutes and complements. Any question? Any questions? Any question? Okay. Then we have closed next week.